As much as I would normally avoid Facebook like the plague, coming across this video reminded me that it's been 6 years since I've written the first track on my debut EP, Rosie. Hold on, this might be a weird place to start the video. What's up guys, it's your boy Wolfgang, and considering I'm now known as your favorite inconsistent YouTuber, I thought I would take a great dive into narcissism by talking solely about my music. Stop
this
it,
guy stinks!
Well, maybe I need to tone things down a notch, but to explain things better, I feel like I've been in a creative rut recently. However, I thought that taking a brief dive into my history with music and discussing my creative process might spark something new for myself, or potentially for the audience. Will it work? I don't know. But let's go as far back as I can remember to start this all. The earliest I can remember having a creative outlet was through a small-known website you might know as YouTube. It may have involved the world's most sophomoric sketches, but by golly will any of these see the light of day in 2021.
Not A to Z. Could have had a V8.
But it was through these videos I found a calling for not only comedy but also music.
The new guitar, awesome.
Especially after receiving an Epiphone SG like my favorite guitarist at the time had. And that musician was Angus Young. Hell, I even named my dog after him when I was only 6, so that sure says something. When I was learning how to play, I might have been extremely arrogant, knowing only the basic chords and future tripping instead of properly practicing. Even when I took a few years in between to focus on swimming, I became infatuated with music over games like Guitar Hero and Rock Band in my off time. All these ideas aside, uploading the videos I had took a lot of courage. Bring it over to high school, and I had gotten an acoustic guitar, beginning to teach myself the fundamentals of a true 4-chord cover artist. I had a vocal cover of my obsession with Sublime at the time, and presto, we're caught up to when I posted the idea of what became Rosie. In that same time frame, I had promised numerous EPs and artist names, each of them significantly failing harder because I had fallen into the vast emptiness of future tripping yet again, and unfortunately, this cost me what could have been a much stronger fan base. All of my cockiness aside, I remember sitting in my childhood room and writing the instrumental I had just shown while messing around in drop D tuning. It was in that same time I'd also written and recorded a rough draft of Girl as well.
And now that girl is gone, gone, gone. I know that she'll be back within a couple of years.
Shortly after getting these instrumentals under my belt, I had moved out for a year to explore independence. It was in the same mindset that some of my best ideas came forth, with a clear mind and consistent repetition. It was also here, and through house sitting, that I wound up finishing writing 2 songs in their entirety, being Anti-Drug and then Rosie, both of which dealt with my ideals on modern relationships that would take way too long to get into. At that point, I was in my senior year of college and wanted to showcase what I'd been working on to a crowd of people my age. So to the UW I went, completely f***ing up the song out of sheer embarrassment. Song I've been writing for about 2 years straight, so here it goes. It's called Rosie. I got over that bit real quick. Hey Rosie, next to you know maybe I'll see you come back. Don't let your brain run dry, can look back at your memories. Despite what I considered to be a failure, it was here that I had met and flagged down an artist calling himself The Knob, in sheer amazement of his talent on the bass alone.
To walk away, I should have been a fool. Sunday, the sun is still streaming over your hair.
We had networked, but didn't talk again until June that year, when I had practiced more and performed Anti-Drug with a much more enthusiastic mindset, and crowd for that matter. It was there we goofed around, and I got to meet his guitarist friend Jack, both of whom started the duo currently known as Lahaina. I had the chance to jam with both of them, but let's hear what Jack has to say on the whole experience, and his idea on what the creative process truly is. How you doing, Jack?
Doing pretty good. Honestly, like a couple weeks ago, I was feeling a bit down from like just the winter, but ever since we had the snow weekend, that really lifted my spirits up.
I'm glad. More on the music side of things. How long have we known each other, and what were your first honest impressions of me?
So I first saw you at the open mic where you met Erna, but then I didn't talk to you, I don't think, until afterwards. I forgot when we first started talking.
I think it was around the second open mic night when we started talking when you were Flo at the time.
Oh, that's right. That is right. So my first impression of you, where you played a song in acoustic and then it sounded kind of alternative rocky, but then I think you're wearing some sort of band shirt, so I kind of assumed you were kind of one of those guys who would just like rock out to like classic rock songs. Like I don't know if Real Van Fleet was like a thing, but if it was a thing back then, I felt like you would be into them, at least first impression wise.
On that note, what is the best memory you have of us being together, personal or musically?
So remember us jamming that one time at Ernop's place, and then I thought it was funny. Well, I remember you complimented my playing, and you were like, "Yeah, do you play jazz well?" And then I was almost like kind of like, "Shit, actually I don't play jazz, but sure if I appear that way, please don't find out." I remember we playing "Killing the Name of," like Rage Against the Machine, and then you had like the pitch shifter pedal, and I was so jealous because you were playing the solo like exactly how Tom Morello would play it, and I was like so jealous, and that was a good memory. Another thing is personal memory when we went to a 1975 show together. And you guys could all drink, and I was still under 21, and that was like such a bummer. Oh,
Now, going back towards your inspiration, how long have you been playing music?
I started playing guitar freshman year of high school, so it must have been 2012. I was kind of on and off with it. In high school, I played like in a cover band where we just covered a lot of like pop punk songs, like from like Paramore, Green Day, like Chemical Romance. There's a lot of bands like that, and I was just happy playing like power chords all day. And then it was not until college when I started getting more of this stuff. So yeah, my favorite song to play was "The Middle" by Jimmy Eat World because it was three chords, power chords. It was just like, and it sounded so good, just like yeah.
Focusing more on
Yeah.
the now, who and what do you think inspires you the most?
I think I like it when like someone's just like really trying to express themselves and like not like hunted by nervousness, like trying to impress. For example, last year I went to one of my acquaintances' show where he covered like a lot of like grunge and blues rock songs, and then I know he was like really depressed at the time. So it really felt like he would just really express himself. I felt like he was letting it all out, and then I find that really hard to do myself because like sometimes I try to show off too much, or sometimes I'm like really nervous. But like when I see a guy like that just really enjoying themselves on stage, I think that inspires me more than anything. So guitar wise, there's definitely two guys that shaped my playing the most. So John Mayer and like John Frusciante from Chili Peppers definitely shaped my playing, probably more than I would like because now I can't. I don't know. Anyway, well I really like Polyphia. I only got into them like 2 years ago. Yeah, and then I really like Billie Eilish. I really like Billie Eilish. And one other guy I will name that I think like most people don't know is Jay Chow, but I'm really into this stuff because he does this thing where like he would mix like traditional Chinese instruments with like pop and hip hop. I thought was really cool.
On to the next question. When you hear the terms the creative process, what does that normally entail for you?
Since like I mostly play guitars, I can imagine just like working on playing around and then finding a cool riff and then making a song off of that. So maybe like I'll play around and find a cool riff, and then I'll start thinking about like just like start saying random things, putting on that on the looper and see if I can loop more parts, and let me loop like the bass part too, and start thinking about like the drum. It always kind of starts with the riff, which I'm kind of trying to step away from, and that's how it's been. But I guess because lately I've been just doing more stuff with just air knobs, so that was kind of interesting process because it's like super collaborative. It's not so much just me coming up with the riff anymore. It's like sometimes you'll come up with a riff like I'll lead the songs and then I'll like try to write a part to that. So that's been interesting as well. Yeah, it's kind of my creative process.
Well, is there anything else you want to include, like talk about?
Well, I feel like Lahaina doing stuff will be the most interesting. I like writing in a band more, I think. I think it's easier to get things done on my own in that I can easily just put like a song in Logic and then do however I want it. But like I feel so much more drive when like I'm playing with someone else and someone else also wants to make this thing. So I think I've been really fortunate to meet Ernab.
After feeling semi-confident in my skills and jamming for a few years, I was given the opportunity to record with a friend at Shoreline Community College for their class project. It was here that I recorded the first ever version of Rosie, but we didn't need a bassist after all, considering the drop D tuning and open chords allowed for that tone. While no footage existed of this recording, a few months later allowed for the Thenabh and I to reconnect again with the opportunity for a bassist on Anti-Drug and Girl, both which were recorded in April 2019. But let's hear his story on the side of things, and his take on what the creative process truly entails. How you doing today, Arnab?
I'm doing just fine, man. It's a Friday, just got done with work. Yeah, I'm kind of relieved for the weekend, you know.
Hell yeah to that. How long have we known each other, and what were your first honest impressions of me?
How long have we known each other? I think since 2017. 2017 or 2018 is when we met. During that time, Jack and I were part of like an earlier iteration of Lahaina Noon, our current band. And my first impression of you was sort of being this really enthusiastic person who was very easy to connect with about music, like always passionate about it. And there's one moment that I remember the most. So the place where we met is this place called Area 01 at the University of Washington. It's where it's like a little hall where a lot of bands used to practice. And that's where we did our first show with the song, in fact, that is going to be released next. So that was the only song we had. And we were performing there, and that's where we met Colin early on. I may be slightly wrong on the details. And the thing that I remember most is that this song has like a really sort of screaming guitar solo at the end of the song. Like the rest of the crowd was, they were enjoying, but during the guitar solo, Colin got up and started playing air guitar in front of us. I was like, that is the kind of audience I want in my life.
I was giving you the flame fingers.
Oh, that's what you're doing. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And since then, sort of, I've been really grateful to meet a few people in the Seattle music scene. But I think Colin is the person I'm most grateful to meet, because I think he's the one who really taught me how to, be a patron for local music and how to support local music.
On that note, what is the best memory you have of us, either being personal or musically?
Musically, it has to be the launch of Colin's EP. I mean, that was such an amazing moment for me. Actually, I'll mention two moments. The first is the launch of Colin's EP, because Colin and I worked on that EP. He was obviously the majority. I added a few bass lines here and there, but I also got to record. So put my music out. It was the first time I was on Spotify as a person, so that was a huge moment for me as well. And just the performance itself was great. We had John and Russ Thornburg from the incredible Asterhouse on drums and guitar to back us up. They're friggin' great. Do check that band out. Just phenomenal band. So that performance is like really important to me. Another musical moment that I really remember is when Colin and I first performed at his father's winery.
Yes.
The one he manages, yes. So Smasney Cellars. And so we did like a 4 or 5 hour performance, mostly improvised. Colin and I, he was on guitar and I was on bass, and we were covering a few songs, but we were also going off on our own. And so it was like a really fun performance. I remember that because, again, that was one of the earliest performances I had, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Next, focusing more on you personally. How long have you been playing music?
That's hard to say. The reason why it's hard to say is that my family is quite musical and everybody in my family sings. So I don't remember when I first started singing along to songs. I think may have been sometime when I was 10 or 11. Then I kind of noodled on keys and guitar a little bit. But really, I wanted to play music when I was in 11th grade, when I first heard this incredible band called Dream Theater. And so that turned me onto keyboards initially, but I always wanted to play bass because their bassist, John Mayong, is just a beast on the instrument. And so I wanted to play that. And eventually, when I turned like 19 or 20, I started playing bass. And I haven't looked back since.
Actually, this kind of ties right into that answer. Who and what do you think inspires you the most, either currently, in the past, just in general?
So as a musician, other musicians inspired me a lot. I mean, this is just about everybody else. There's a bunch of metal bands and funk bands and the Bollywood music that I grew up listening to. Another kind of person that really inspires me a lot is just people who are really good at their craft. Like if I'm looking at a dancer, or if I'm looking at a programmer, or if I'm looking at a public speaker and they're really good at their craft, I'm really impressed by that. Right? And that's why maybe that's why I'm sort of attracted to a band like Dream Theater, which sort of really prizes itself on the high level of technique and proficiency with which they play their instruments. So I think that's another point of inspiration. The third is just sort of like events of life. Those are especially helpful when it comes to just writing lyrics about things that I've been through or things that I see going on in the world. And that's mostly what my lyrics address. And a lot of like writers and poets also help, in terms of just formulating the words. In terms of people in my life, my dad's a musician in some way, and I think I've inherited some of his gifts in that, I can play music and I can write the lyrics as well. My nephew, he is somewhat musical as well. I'd really like to see where his talent goes. But when we came out with our first song, The Talking Head Tango, he said that music is very good and you should become a musician. And I'd been vacillating until then what I should do with life. But I was a lot surer after he told me that I should become a musician. So there's that as well.
So when you hear the terms the creative process, what does that usually entail for you?
It's really hard to put boundaries around what the creative process is, because one part of the creative process is just the mechanics of creating things. And so that's playing riffs and you're figuring something out on the instrument, or just, working as a producer and adding things that itself is a creative process. The other part is just coming up with ideas, right? And a lot of the composition and ideas that I come up with are when I'm away from the instrument, when I'm not sitting on a computer, and when I'm walking around. I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and maybe that's why it is. But I often pace a lot. I pace like around the house, or I'll walk, or I'll be doing something else. I'll be cooking, doing the dishes, something like that. And I'll notice there's a melody or a rhythm or something going on in my head. And then I'll try to capture it as best as I can. So that's like a big part of how I compose songs and how I come up with parts that are often beyond my own reach as a bassist or a producer, because I haven't worked up to it and my brain is coming up with it and I have to reach up to that level. So that's another piece of the creative process. And the third part of the creative process is just living life and reading and trying to listen to as much music as possible and grabbing those ideas.
From there, there's a few instrumental winery gigs and the last 2 tracks from Home being Off the Deep End and Headache, leading me into finding a producer to finalize things. One of them being a friend of a friend, the Supernova, and the other from Fiverr, Kevin Carafa. With their help, the Off the Deep End EP was ready as ever to be released. With the fast as ever rush on production from Merch Hero, I was able to host a CD release party with thenabh and Asterhouse behind me. After that, I was able to feature my music digitally, promote what I could via Discord and social media for the next year. That's where in late 2020 I joined a talent show and got cocky after round 2 for technical difficulties.
We're gonna go with DG first because he's top of the list.
I wasn't like ready.
We're gonna start with Wolfgang first.
It's a classic from Wilco's Yankee Foxtrot Hotel. Tall building shake.
Oh, he crashed.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
Oh, that's not good.
Emmy, can you move him back in?
Thank you.
Wielding power, the ancient neurons.
Before like any of the waters break, I want to raise a toast to y'all. 1, 2, 3.
Wolfgang.
DG.
DGD.
DG, congrats.
So DG.
Ego aside, I became friends with 2 very unique musicians as well. One of them that ended up going on to the finals from that talent show, being the legendary beast, DGD BBY DBM2. Let's hear what he has to say and his take on what the creative process truly is. DG, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
How long have we known each other, and what are your first impressions of me when we first met?
When we first met, probably somewhere between 6 to 9 months. I've known you on the server because I remember you from before you like took a break. I think about 9 months would be my guess, but everyone, whenever I say I've known them a while, they're like, I met you 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I remember just seeing the name Wolfgang, and I presumed you were an Odd Future fan, and my impressions were just definitely that you're a nice guy, and you didn't like Odd Future as much as your name might allude.
On that note, what is the best memory that you have of us together, either being personally or more musically wise?
If I had to pick that, it would definitely have to be the talent show. That was a lot of fun. It was like when I actually got to know you and what you do with your guitar and all of your different music for the first time, really. Like everyone did a little bit of jamming like right when it was announced, but like the day of, we really like we were all hanging out the whole time. Like there was this pseudo green room created with us like hanging in one of the voice chats that was like disconnected from the show.
How long have you been playing music for?
It's funny. It's I should be a lot better. I've been playing music for like 20 years. I first was inspired to pick up a guitar and like figure out Iron Man and Smoke on the Water when I was like literally some of my first memories. I set like 5 years old as like a marker, but I do have some memories from before that. Like I wasn't even really big enough to hold the thing, but like I actually leaned towards the bass guitar even though it's so much bigger because the strings are separated and it was just easier, you know, those basic riffs, a lot easier to really figure out what's going on. And at a really young age, I got those riffs locked in, and I didn't get any better for a long time, but then I was in choir and chorus and all of that stuff growing up, and like band too, of course, band camp even, like extra level. For like 4 or 5 years I did band camp. So by the time all that was over and I decided to not keep going with trombone and singing in high school because going through puberty, voice was dropping, and it was really hard for me to like deal with that and then keep singing, especially because I was the oldest soprano in like the child choir for like 2 years in a row, and I was like the unofficial leader, and I just like got all of the soprano solos. And this one time I remember I came to choir late, and literally the director like stopped everyone and was like, oh, thank God DG's here. You gotta show them what to do. Like no cap at all. But then puberty, and my silent night all of a sudden was and it just wasn't what it was. So I stepped away from singing and even just woodwinds in general, and I just spent more time playing guitar and got really, really into it. Fast forward a lot of time. By the end of high school, one of the teachers asked me to perform at graduation, and I played Blink-182's Going Away to College, and it was pretty cheesy and funny. That's about when I would probably start saying I was like an actual musician. And now later it's more about theory and what's going on behind, like in the head and all that.
And on the next note of that idea, Who and what inspires you the most?
I'm going to give you the umbrella answer that I kind of figured out when I was about 18, when I really started like doing covers and all that, was that my biggest inspiration have always come from people that look like they're having fun. So it doesn't matter if it's my favorite genre, it doesn't matter if it's what I like specialize in when I listen to music or whatever. If I just happen to catch a performance on whatever show and they look like they are having fun, I'm inspired by that. So I can't really just say one person, one act, one group or whatever, obviously, because anyone can list a million of those. It's genuinely like the easiest thing to link it all back to is when I see performers having fun on stage, I get incredibly inspired.
More focusing on when you're creating music. When you hear the terms the creative process, what does that entail for you personally?
I actually have another funny thing about this one, but I feel like those two words together just feel oxymoronic. And to me, it's more like the creative possession. And that's exactly how I would describe it. Like the most creative moments I've had in the most catchy songs that in old like local bands I was in that people like the most, they were written in the shortest amount of time. There's this zone, there's this wavelength that you catch into and it comes out and it almost feels like you didn't write it. And then that's it. And then it's over. So it's not a process, but to me, I would call it a possession. And it just feels like you get taken over. And then when that's over and you feel normal again, the song's over and the song's done.
All right, now it's time for the fun part. Is there anything on the pipeline you'd like the viewers to be aware of?
DGD BBY DBM2 is my handle on YouTube and on Twitch, and I'm gonna be opening up like 100 packs of Pokemon cards. When you're viewing this, it might have already happened, or it might be tomorrow, or it might be happening right now. So just go to my channel and follow, and either watch the VOD or watch the edited video that'll go up, or watch the video when it's live, because that's gonna happen really soon. We do Pokemon content, definitely like music, and I do music stuff and would be into doing more music related content. I've always dabbled in the idea of doing album reviews and stuff, but I haven't gotten into it yet, just because, you know, Fantano is so good at it that what is there to add to the genre? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so that's about it.
And who can forget the handsome as ever IT guy, Jake the Mistake. How you doing today, Jake?
I'm doing good. How are you, Wolf?
I'm doing pretty good, you know, just living life as it is.
I'm glad.
How long have we known each other, and what were your honest first impressions?
Well, I've known you since probably right around August of 2020, and my first impressions of you were just a really down-to-earth guy, and I don't mean to build on your ego any, but you were just really cool and really awesome to talk to. You did what you felt was right.
On that note, what's the best memory you have of us together, being personal or musically, your choice?
I think the best memory I have with you is the nights that we chill out, you know? Like when we found that online DAW and we just chilled and made music. I think that was a good example.
All right, now going more towards you, how long have you been playing music?
I've been playing and writing since I was 13. So I've really gotten used to like what is good writing and what's bad writing. But I just started making music, you know, probably June or July of 2020.
On that note, who and what do you think inspires you the most to continue?
What inspires me to continue is just that I haven't said everything yet. You know, I write music and I do music because emotionally and stress-wise, it's so relieving. If I'm able to find a topic that I want to write about and I put it into music, it relieves all of my stress. It just goes away. So I think the best inspiration is my stressors and the bad things that happen in my life that I don't want happening.
Now, when you hear the terms the creative process, what does that usually entail for you personally?
All right, here's my creative process. I go onto YouTube, I find a really cool beat that I listen to. I take it, I download it as an MP3, and then I listen to it 14 times. I write something, and then if it fits into it and fits into the rest of the beat, holy crap, I've made a hit. And the rest of it, throw it away. Anything else, that's how I write all of my good songs, is I just grab a beat and I go with what I feel like sounds good.
All right, is there anything on the pipeline you'd like the viewers to be aware of?
So I'm changing my name. I used to be JF. I'm changing my name to Jake the Mistake. I don't have any real promos. I'm just kind of making stuff as I get stressed out. So if you want to check me out right now, it's at JF. But if you can't find me at JF, then it's probably Jake the Mistake.
Now that you've gotten a full taste of my history as an independent musician, let's touch back on a point I've been discussing all of today, that being the creative process. From all the people we've heard from and the brief mentions that I've had to say, what does it all mean to me? To me, The creative process stems from 3 aspects: chords, lyrics, and then simply structure. But getting there involves a lot of other factors. From getting in the right headspace and reflecting on my past, it involves a lot of rewrites and word changes to get my message across fully. Sometimes I try to be more straightforward, but other times I want to be more abstract, so that way the average listener can't really pick up on what I'm trying to say, but you have to dig to really get to the point. All this on your plate, I think it's time to announce it, but let's leave it to Lahaina Noon to say it all.
All right. Is there anything on the pipeline you'd like the viewers to be aware of?
Yeah, our plan was to release 4 songs and then focus exclusively on promotion. We have 3 songs that are out right now: Got Away, Familiar Strangers, and The Talking Head Tango. They're available on all platforms: Spotify, YouTube, even on Instagram, actually, if you search for it. We have a 4th song coming out within the next week or 2. It's called Melt With Me. And we'll also have an accompanying video with it, as we have for all our songs. And beyond that, just expect like a lot of sort of interesting musical exercises by both Jack and I, some interesting interaction, conversations about music. And yeah, so that's basically our 2021 once this last song comes out.
There's one last thing on the way. I think I'll be the first to announce it very soon. We worked on a little cover by chance. Do you guys want to go more into that? What song did we work on?
Where Is My Mind by the Pixies.
In Your Head. I really enjoyed it. I never heard that song before. And I laid down a bass line, but I also got to do really high falsetto vocals, and that's what I enjoyed the most.
With that news as well, my second EP is in the works, with Jakethemistake featured on the first track, and you'll know when it's time. I'll definitely do some more promotion then, better than last time, but until then, I wanted to leave you with this. Music is a passion that can be scoured by anyone, and I want to make this channel as open a space as ever for anybody wanting to promote themselves, or like myself, get themselves out of the creative rut that they've been in recently. I have dropped links below for everybody featured in the video, but please, in the comments, drop your projects, let me know what's up, or if you have any questions for advice on how to really make it from where you're currently at. I'll be happy to listen, and you know me, I'm more than happy to create a network full of musical positivity in the comments, so rock on to that. That's gonna do it for me. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz down below, and I'll see you in a few months for the next video.
Just to add to that, we just did a photo shoot last week, so we'll be releasing some pre-photos, which both me and Erna, so that'll be coming out as well.
And if there are any sort of like graphics artists or anybody else along those lines who want to work with our music and our music speaks to them, feel free to contact us. Jack and I are UX designers, so we can design software. We cannot really design beautiful posters and flyers, as well as like a dedicated graphics designer can.
As you guys can see from our profile and cover photos, we try hard.
We are not trading on sexiness, we're trading on effects.